You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a trunk, just like Jim. It's more to life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more to life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, like some bottles, impress them girls. It's more to life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And we're back. We're back with some main course, actually. Some main course. It's been a while since we've been on that main course style. But before we delve into that too deeply, talking about the draft and even undrafted rookie free agents, just gotta shout out the hair. You know, we got the mud flat back. You know, there for a while it was looking like a mane. The beard's so big, I imagine some of y'all wouldn't even notice that I got a haircut. But yeah, we got it shaved on the sides and much shorter in the back, which is really nice when it comes to brushing your hair and drying it. Just takes forever to dry and is kind of painful to brush when it's super long like that. So yeah, we're looking high and tight, but the flap on back like we've been doing. But we let it grow out there a little bit for winter time. We're just trying to stay warm. We'll see how much longer we're gonna hold on to this beard, but I think it's looking straight too. It's looking big. Like I said, it's covering up what's going on in the back. You don't even notice my hairstyle with this big thing on standby. But anyways, let's get into this draft here. I mean, there were some positives about it, and then there were some negatives about it. But let's get into this because we got quite a few players. The Saints actually made all 9 of their selections in this draft. No trade ups just no trade ups or packaging any kind of deals for selling away current assets or future assets. So I'm stoked about that. I was wanting them to make at least 7, 8 picks in this draft, but the fact that they were able to clutch their pearls so tightly on this one that they didn't trade any was really nice. But can't say that I'm in love with all these picks, but it seemed like kind of as this draft kind of went along, it kind of got better, But anyways, let's get into it because we got a lot to get into, and then maybe we got like a slight update on this more Derek Carr news. I mean, the guy just can't help himself out. Like if he stays away from New Orleans and the fans, people hate him, or if he says something to try to defend himself, people hate him. The guy just can't win. He honestly just needs to get off my team. Need to kick him out of there. But we'll dive into a little bit more of what's going on with him at the end of the show here. But anyways, can I get a menu? And so the Saints, they started off the draft with the 9th pick in the draft. So they were up there in the top 10, and you think, oh, hopefully what kind of great kind of players might fall to them in this draft. But the board didn't really play up exactly how I would have liked it to. I mean, Ty Warren was still there, which a lot of people had him kind of build up, kind of similar as Brock Bowers, but I don't know if he was that good or not. But Ty Warren was right there available. And then Jalen, what was it? Jalen Walker, I think that's who it was. Yeah, Jalen Walker was also right there. So you had a tight end position, which the Saints kind of need some tight end help because you're kind of unsure about Boston Monroe after his injury in the last game of the season. You know that for the most part, Juwan Johnson is just kind of mid, and then you have Dylan Holker, which we may have another Dylan Holker name drop here in a second at the end after the draft because he was an undrafted rookie free agent. So the 2 players that I'm thinking at the 9 spot were probably Ty Warren and Jalen Walker, because the player that I had a draft crush on, really wanted the Saints to draft, would have thought it would have filled such a big hole in what the Saints need at wide receiver, because you got all these guys that are like sub 600 or sub 6 foot, all these guys that are like 5'11, 5'10, barely pushing 200 pounds. Like I was wanting that big body wide receiver, jump ball, in catch in traffic type of receiver. And of course, this seems to happen every year, that the team just right before us drafts who I wanted. It happened last year with the Raiders picking Brock Bowers right before the Saints picked, and it happened this year with the Carolina Panthers, no less. Of course, it had to be on top of everything else. It had to be division rival. But right before the Saints picked my crush, Tate McMillan, T Mac, the wide receiver from Arizona, the 6'4", 6'5", 215, 20-pound receiver, picked right before the Saints. So that left me head scratching about like, am I in love with any of these guys? Are these like, where do these guys fit on the Saints board and all that, and like what kind of fills need? And so at the end of that, I'm just saying, we got Jalen Walker. The Saints really need an outside linebacker, a stand-up pass rusher. Ty Warren, if he could just elevate the Saints tight end position, because I think he's not really just considered. Ty Warren wasn't really just considered as a receiving tight end, but also a great blocker, which really I don't think any of the Saints' current tight ends could really say that they're a great blocker. I guess you could maybe say Foster Monroe is pretty decent, but who knows when he'll play in next year after injuring his leg. So that would have been a nice combination. But the Saints still they went for probably BPA on their draft board with this pick. So round one, pick number 9, the Saints go Kelvin Banks Jr. Out of Texas. And at first, I wasn't really in love with this pick, just because it's not a sexy pick, and it seems like every year the Saints pick an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, which that statement isn't untrue. They actually have since 2014. The Saints have either picked a defensive lineman or a defensive tackle with either their first round pick or their first pick in the draft, because there was that uh, draft in what 20 I think if it was 2019 or 2020, when they drafted uh, Eric McCoy, they didn't have a first round pick, but their first pick in the second round was an offensive lineman. So that statement's actually true. They've over more than 10 years, a 10-year span, they've picked an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, either in the first round or with their first pick. So, it's just kind of a little hard to get excited about that, because, the last real sexy pick that they picked with their first round pick was Chris Olave back in 2021, I do believe. So they had Chris Olave was your last offensive player picked in the first round, offensive skills position weapon. But you got Kelvin Banks Jr. here, who's like 6'5", I think 315 pounds. Was the top offensive tackle in this draft. If you depending on what your thoughts on Will Campbell are. So Will Campbell, he went like at number 4 to the Patriots, and then Kelvin Banks Jr. was still available. So thanks going BPA. The weird thing about that is both of these players, Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks Jr., could easily be projected as guards in the NFL, because both of them have short, T-Rex arms, and that's the only thing that hurt them in this draft. And obviously, it didn't hurt them much, because they still both went top 10, and Will Campbell went top 5. But both of them only have 33-inch arms, and I think the desired length for an elite offensive lineman is like 34 to 36. So they're both about an inch off on the arm length. But even with the Saints picking Kelvin Banks Jr. At number 9, because we're talking about how they had picked offensive line or defensive line like every year since 2014 with their first pick or so. Uh, you know, so Banks Jr. He's picked at 9, but the Saints pick Talisi Fuaga last year, like at pick like 11 or 12, and so he's picked a little later. But honestly, I easily looked at Talisi Fuaga as possibly the best offensive tackle in the draft in 2024. Like maybe your only argument would maybe have been what Joe Alt that was maybe picked before him, but Kelvin Banks Jr. and Will Campbell, like both of them, I don't think in the 2024 draft probably wouldn't have gotten picked before Talisa Fuaga and uh, and Joe Alt because that might project them to be guards. But you let this marinate, this filling, and let this pick marinate. You got to look at it in the future side and what this pick could end up projecting. And Kelvin Banks Jr. he could maybe start right away, either at the left guard spot where it's kind of unfilled besides Dylan Rendon's, the tackle the guard that they signed from Tennessee, Rundins, Dylan Rundins. So he could, if he starts, could easily start over him, over obviously because he's a first round pick, or they could possibly move him to the left tackle spot and then move Talisi Fuaga back to his natural spot, the position that he played mostly in college. Move him back to right tackle, and then you could maybe move Trevor Penning to left guard, who this is a future pick, like a thinking, not about trying to just win now, but trying to build and win for the future. Because no matter what coming next year, next season, you'll have to make a decision on Trevor Penning because they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. So for all we know, depends on what kind of season Trevor Penning has, but they may not re-sign him to be their right tackle, or if they move him around to be left guard. So I like this pick. I understand this pick. This pick definitely feels like building from the inside out. From the offensive line to the defensive line. This feels like the kind of what Kellen Moore was wanting to build coming over from the Eagles. Great offensive line, great defensive line, and it just kind of has you know that you have the fallback guy in Kelvin Banks Jr. if things continue or just don't go well with Trevor Penning. So you obviously have Trevor Penning's replacement, and you also have maybe that left guard spot. So I'm good with the Kelvin Banks Jr. Pick. The only thing is just the short arms. That's so weird that the top 2 offensive tackles in this draft both had like 33-inch arms, but a little bit more on Kelvin Banks Jr. is he played a lot of games in college. He played 42 games for the Texas Longhorns, and that's in 3 seasons he played for them. I was reading some draft profiles of him, and people were trying to say like he's kind of raw and and maybe even said like undersized, but it's like, well, I mean, he's 6'5", 350. I don't really know how you could be undersized being 6'5", and then being like raw and inexperienced. You played 42 games. Let's see, 27 of them in the Big 12, and then he played 15 in the SEC last year, all with Texas. So I don't see where he's undersized, and I don't see where he's raw and inexperienced with that much playing time at such a big and starts at such a big program in Texas. But that's Kelvin Banks Jr. I can't really say that I was originally in love with the pick, but I don't hate it either. I see the future, what Kellen Moore is trying to build here. All right, so that's your first pick. On to the second pick. So with the second round, pick 40, the New Orleans Saints picked Tyler Shuck quarterback out of Louisville and see. So Tyler Shuck. I was out of all the picks, this originally was probably one I hated the most. And I was just talking with a friend like the night before this about like how I just don't want the Saints to pick a quarterback with their number 9 pick. Like I don't think after Cam Ward, I didn't think like any quarterback was worth that high of a pick. And I didn't want the Saints to pick Tyler Shuck, a dude that's literally going to be 26 years old by the time the season starts. I can't have a Brandon Weeden 2.0, a Brandon Weeden Jr. here. Like, when's the last time that a player that's pushing 26 years old, a rookie, been like successful? And I mean, not even quarterback, but just any position. You have to go back. I guess you're talking, if you are talking quarterback, you have to go back to like Kurt Warner or something. It just doesn't work, you know. And I'm just not a huge fan of you signing these guys. And if he actually is good, by the time his next contract or first contract is up to get paid, hell, he'll be 30 years old already. And he played. Let's see, he played like 7 seasons. Yes, I think he was in college for 8 years. Yeah, he played from 18 to 24. So 7 seasons in college. So besides just the age, you have to look at he's injury prone and was like a backup a good portion of his career. So he was like a backup for the first couple seasons with the Oregon Ducks. He was just like a backup in 18 and 19, and then in 2020 he was like a starter, but then got like hurt, and then he went to Texas Tech and was just like hurt the whole time. Only played in a full season in 2024 with Louisville, where he played in 12 games. But before that, he was with Oregon just 3 games. Oregon in 2019, 5 games. Oregon in 2020, just 7 games, and then Texas Tech in 2021, only 4 games. In Texas Tech 2022, just 7 games, and then Texas Tech in 2023, just 4 games. And I think he's been dealing with those injuries and just being a backup. He had a broken collarbone and a broken fibula, which those are kind of injuries where those are just kind of bad luck. And then he was just finally healthy last year. So we talked about most of the negatives there, mostly his age and the fact that he's been in college for so long and he's injury prone. But even when you're just going off of his statistics, so he played almost the full season in Louisville. We're just talking about that season alone. It's the completion percentage that has me kind of cringing a little bit. He only had a 62.7 completion percentage uh, at Louisville, and then only had 23 touchdowns to his six interceptions. So those are numbers that don't wow me. Like, the only thing that I can understand as to why the Saints drafted him and he's Kellen Moore's guy potentially is that he's 6'5", 225 with a laser rocket arm. I understand that. Out of all the quarterbacks in this draft, if Shador Sanders, who I can't believe it took till the 5th round for him to get drafted, I still thought he was just a 3rd round pick and would have been really pissed if the Saints would have picked him number 9. But I'm telling you, if Shador Sanders was 6'5" and 225, he'd have probably been the first pick overall over Cam Ward if he maybe had a little bit better interview skills. But yeah, I think that's probably the biggest reason why Tyler Shuck got picked by the Saints, is just the 6'5", 225, a laser rocket arm, and obviously did real well in the interview process. But I am just not a huge fan of drafting a player that's injury prone and old as a rookie. But got to commend him a little bit, because like right after he got drafted, and some of his first couple interviews where he had like his family in the background, uh, his dog looked like a golden retriever or something. Already had like a Saints bandana on, so that was nice. He's already doing a good job of trying to be accepted by the fans and NOLA also, and some other reports or tweets saying that he'll die for New Orleans, he'll die for the Saints. He's already a bigger fan, and people are, even with the age discrepancy, uh, people are still already liking him more than Derek Carr. He just got to keep what he's doing and stay healthy. And if he wins, within a year or two, people will forget that he was 25, 26 when he was drafted. So that's the Saints' number 2 pick. On to the third round and start getting into players not quite as familiar with, but we have Vernon Burrowton with the third round, the 71 pick. Vernon Burrowton, defensive tackle out of Texas, and I understand this pick. Let's see. I understand this pick because the Saints needed to get bigger, offensive, off just bigger so they could stop the run, and needed to have a little bit bigger linemen, and some of your linebackers need to be a little bit bigger when you're playing a 3-4. So adding Vernon Burton, who's 6'4", I think he was like says 6'4", 290 on his CFB sports reference profile, but I think he's actually like 6'4", 315. So if he is just the 290 that they're saying here, then he'd probably be still just a defensive end in a 3-4 defense, but if he has added the weight for this recent profile of him's been taken, then he would probably be more of a nose tackle. But he was actually had a bit of a pass rush last year. So this is another player taken from Texas. Saints have some ties to Texas with I think the defensive line coach from Texas. So maybe he knew a little bit about Kelvin Banks Jr., and obviously I'm sure he knows about Vernon Burton. So he played in Texas, and he played 5 seasons in Texas too. Probably one of them was probably the COVID year in 2020 where he only played in 2 games. But throughout that, like talking about Kelvin Banks Jr. and talking about Vernon Burton, first thing you notice is how many games they played. So Kelvin Banks Jr. played in 42 games. Vernon Burton played in 56 games with Texas, and definitely had his best year, like a breakout year in the 2024 season, where he played in 16 games, had 24 solo tackles, 15 assists, and 39 combined, 5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. So if he is a nose tackle, that shows a pretty good pass rush, even if he is a nose tackle. But for some reason, I'm about to switch up on my feelings on what he actually is. He may end up just being a defensive end in this 3-4. So and then the 4 sacks, and then he had 2 pass deflections, 3 fumble recoveries, and 2 forced fumbles. So that's a pretty impressive final season for Vernon Burton. And over his entire career, just going for the pass rush, he had 13 tackles for loss and 6.5 sacks. But definitely had his best season in 2024. But I'm like I said, as this draft kind of goes along, and after the Tyler Shuck pick, I actually started liking this draft more and more, because I understood they started leaning after Kelvin Benjamin and Tyler Shuck being picked. They started kind of going kind of defensive heavy here, and not just defensive heavy with the amount of picks they were making, on defense, but just defensive heavy because you see that they're trying to bulk up and improve this run defense. And a good way to start it is add a young, uh, productive defensive tackle, or I'll just say defensive lineman. I haven't figured out exactly what I'm wanting to call him yet, whether I'm wanting to call him a defensive tackle or a defensive end or a nose tackle. But definitely that helps with stopping the run, which the Saints were terrible at doing last year. And the Saints continue to do that with their second pick in the third round. So pick number 93 from Washington. I think the Saints already won the Marshawn Lattimore trade, but replacing him with a with a secondary player, you got Jonas Stanker, safety from Virginia, and because the Saints already had Tyrann Matthews, Jordan Howding, and then added Justin Reed in free agency. I think the Saints, out of those three players, can maybe find a can find a can find a free safety, to play a center fielder, and because Jonas Sanker is more of a box safety, kind of a tackling machine, and another player that shows that they're like, this is what I love about these picks. Pretty much all these picks, besides the Tyler Shuck one, is just how many games and how durable and healthy these players are. The Saints need to definitely distance themselves from like injury-prone players. But you got Jonas Sanker here, Virginia, 6 foot, 185-pound safety out of Virginia. He played 43 games for Virginia. And last year he had 65 tackles, 65 solo tackles, 33 assists, 98 combined, 9 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, an interception, returned for 45 yards, 4 pass deflections, 2 fumble recoveries, 1 return for 40 yards, and a fumble recovery touchdown. So those numbers almost just look like a linebacker, honestly. And then if you go to his 2023 numbers, which are very similar, he had 12 games. He had 73 solo tackles, 34 assists, 107 combined, 4 tackles for loss, and 11 pass deflections, 2 fumble recoveries, and 3 forced fumbles. So he's not really like a ball hawk in regards to like getting interceptions and being a free safety and center fielder. But from the amount of fumbles and the sacks that he gets, I think he's a thumper. He's a box safety that can come up and lay big hits, help stop the run, add a little bit of pass rush to your defense, but also force some fumbles, and recover some fumbles. So not your typical when you think of a ball hawk as a fumble forcer, but that's kind of what he is, and he's like a box safety and kind of adds almost like a really like athletic linebacker to the defense. But the Saints needed just players that can tackle and are durable and help that run defense. And with those first 2 defensive picks in the third round, where the Saints go, I think they definitely help improve their run defense with Vernon Burrowton and Jonas Stankers, and going off of total numbers for him. So we said he had the 43 games, but just the amount of tackles that he had is pretty impressive over his four-year career at Virginia. He had 176 solo, 97 assists, 273 combined, 14 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, returned for 59 yards, 17 pass deflections, 5 fumble recoveries, returned for 40 yards, 1 for a touchdown, 4 forced fumbles. So he's just a tackling machine, and the Saints need that because, man, at times last year it looked like the defense just looked like The defense didn't want to tackle people. So adding some young tackling machines and and gap stuffers like Vernon Burrowton and Jonas Shankers. I can get behind that. All right. Now then, on to the Saints' fifth pick, first pick in the fourth round. So, fourth round pick number 112. We have Danny Stutzman. Pull up his profile here. We got Danny Stutzman out of Oklahoma, uh, 6'3", 230 pounds. So you'd add more size and length and athletic ability at the linebacker position. Not sure how much longer uh, Demario Davis is going to play. And then you got Pete Warner, and then after those two, you didn't have much depth. So adding a player like Danny Stutzman is a good add too. And he's a tackling machine just like Jonas Sankers. In his last 3 seasons at Oklahoma, he has had at least 100 combined tackles. And once again, we keep highlighting this. Other than Tyler Shuck, we got these guys that have played for like at least 3 or 4 seasons in in college and have like played and made appearances in almost every game. So you have Danny Stutzman with the four years at Oklahoma, and he played in 47 games. And then just in the 2024 season, had 44 solo tackles, 65 assists, 109 combined, 8 tackles for loss, one sack, and he was an All-American in 2024. But going over his career numbers, he's shown that he has a bit of a pass rush ability to him. He has 184 solo tackles, 192 assists, 376 combined tackles, 37 tackles for loss. So he can get in the backfield and stop the run and get after the quarterback a little bit with 37 tackles for loss. That's an impressive number. And then eight sacks, 3 interceptions with 70 yards of return, 1 touchdown, 8 pass deflections, 1 fumble recovery, and 4 forced fumbles. So I mean, he's one just kind of like Jonas Sanker. He's a tackling machine, and he's a do it all, do a little bit of everything. You know, he can get after the quarterback, stop run plays in the backfield. Can even get a few sacks here and there. So just getting these versatile players on defense, you know, a versatile box safety, a run stuffing linebacker that has some pass rush potential as well. Sounds kind of similar to Demario Davis, you know, a bit of a pass rusher, but really is a do-it-all linebacker and run stuffer. But that's what the Saints needed there. Like just off of those 3 players alone, Vernon Burrowton, Jonas Sankers, and Danny Stutzman, I would be surprised if the Saints' run defense isn't better than what it was last year. All right, now we're getting a little bit deeper into the draft and getting into some players where I was actually familiar with some of these players. Like after Tyler Shuck, I wasn't overly familiar or didn't really recognize these names at all, or they weren't like the players left on ESPN or NFL Network or ABC or CBS. It wasn't on like their best available or their big board names that were at the top still. But you had like 2 in a row here with their next couple picks. So with the Saints' second fourth round pick in the fourth round, number 131 from Washington. Like I said, the Saints already won the Lattimore trade. You have Quincy Riley, cornerback out of Louisville. So you had some Louisville ties. We talked about the Texas ties because of the defensive line coach, and you got two Texas players, but now you got some Louisville ties. Tyler Shuck, I'm sure he knows Quincy Riley probably going up against him in practice. So you got the quarterback, and now you got a cornerback, Quincy Riley, who was a notable name, especially on the best available list and those big boards that we were kind of seeing there at the end. Let's see, so we got Quincy Riley, who's he's a little undersized, not bad. I think he's still he's a 5'11" corner, but he's not your what you particularly want, like 6 and above, lengthy, rangy type of corner. But he's still like 6 foot, like close to 6 foot, like five. I think, yeah, like 5'11", and I don't think he ran. I don't think he ran the greatest 40 time. I think it was like high 4.4s or maybe low 4.5 40. But he's another player that's just played a lot of game, played a lot of football. He's played in 3 seasons at Louisville, played in 37 games, and he once again another ball hawk, kind of do it all player at their position. In 2024, he played in 10 games with 21 solo tackles, 12 assists, 33 combined, 3 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and 13 pass deflections and a forced fumble. But going over his career stats, you had 74 solo tackles, 35 assists, 109 combined, 6 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 8 interceptions. So that's pretty impressive. 173 return yards with 1 touchdown, 27 pass deflections, and a forced fumble. So he's a ball hawk. I mean, when the ball is in the air, he gets his hands on the ball, whether it's knocking it down or coming away with the interceptions. That 2022 season, his first year in college, he had 3 interceptions, returned with a return of 101 yards and an interception. That's Darren Sharper-esque. I know we're not supposed to speak his name, but anytime I see 100 or more return yards and some INT touchdowns, that's immediately who I think of. So Quincy Riley, that was a notable name, and coming from a notable college, and just has good numbers popped up. So the Saints needed a corner. I think he was kind of known for playing that nickel dime slot position. So it'd be interesting to see if they want to try Quincy Riley on the outside, so they can move Alontae Taylor back into the slot where he was so productive until they had to move him outside after not Delvin Bro, but Paulson Adebo broke his leg, just like Delvin Bro broke his leg. I'm thinking of getting Delvin Bro mixed up with Paulson Adebo. They both broke their leg, but broke his leg, and then they traded. He couldn't come off of the injury report. Marshawn Lattimore traded him. So after that, all you had really was Alontae Taylor and rookie Kool-Aid McKinstry. But adding Quincy Riley, that adds some depth, and that's a need position. And this will be kind of a fun one to follow because he's a corner, and that was from Washington. So if depending on how much longer Marshawn Lattimore plays, or if he just ever plays, because he's just always on the injury report, be nice to follow that and see if Quincy Riley is just an immediate impact, an immediate improvement over Marshawn Lattimore and whatever he does with the Commanders. So that's kind of fun that the Saints picked a corner with one of those picks that they got from Washington. All right, now then, we're getting into the later rounds here. Just the getting into the 6th or the 7th round. The Saints didn't have a 5th round pick, but round 6, number 184. This was a reacquired pick via the Washington as well. Had a lot of picks either given to Washington or taken back from Washington or traded to us from Washington. We had the Jonas Sankers, the Quincy Riley, and your sixth and your first seventh round pick was from Philadelphia via Washington. But anyways, so your only pick in the sixth round, number 184, you have Devin Neal, running back. So I was just talking about how Quincy Riley, he was on those lists of like best available or on those big boards of players left or best available running backs. Well, I mean, that's something that seems like the Saints like seem to like never do. They maybe do that like earlier in drafts, but seem to like never do that like in later drafts for the most part. It's always drafting players like you've never heard of or coming out of schools that you didn't even know exist, but oh, they're drafting players that coming out of very notable schools and are very notable players and put up really impressive numbers as well. So the Saints, that was something I felt the Saints really needed to do in this draft. And this was kind of known or was being spoke of as being a really great running back draft. And the Saints were able to snag one. So that made me pretty happy. So I'm pretty excited about that. That he may end up being their most productive player year one, just out of just pure numbers. Like if he has a comes into a role where he's just splitting carries and snaps 50-50 with Alvin Kamara because Kendra Miller can never stay healthy and get on the field. I could see him having a pretty impressive rookie season. But so the Saints drafted Devin Neal, 5'11", 209 running back out of Kansas. And another player, I just keep going back to this that I'm loving from this draft. Besides the Tyler Shough pick, we got players that are durable and have played in at least 3 seasons in college and played majority of the games when they were there and just putting up impressive numbers. Devin Neal, the fact that that seems like a complete steal to get him in the sixth round. He played in 49. He played 4 seasons in Kansas and played in 49 games. In his 2024 season, he played in 12 games, had 219 attempts, rushing attempts, with 1,266 yards rushing, a 5.8 yard average, 16 touchdowns, 105.5 yards rushing per game, 24 catches with 254 yards receiving, an average of 10.6 a reception, 1 touchdown. And so that's 243 plays, 1,520 from scrimmage, an average of 6.3 yards a play, and 17 touchdowns. Woo! That the Saints could pick up a player like that in the sixth round. And if he can just come in and be healthier and just play more than Kendra Miller, it'll already be a great pick. But just going off of his total numbers, he'd had 17 all-purpose touchdowns in two years in a row, and double digits, almost double digits, 4 years in a row, and 3 years in a row he had double-digit touchdowns, but 17 in 2023 and 2024. And then total rushing, just career numbers with them. So 49 games, 760 with 4,343 yards rushing with a 5.7 attempt and 49 rushing touchdowns, 88.6 yards a game, 77 receptions, 711 yards, 9.2 on a reception, and then 14 receiving touchdowns, 837 plays from scrimmage, 5,054 total yards with a 6.6 yard average with 53 total touchdowns. So if the Saints could get a player like that to add to their aging backfield with Alvin Kamara, aging and injury prone backfield, I'm all about that. I'm excited about that, and that he's a little bit bigger. He's 5'11", 209, not a small running back, but I think what hurt him the most was maybe some of his tape. You watch some of his tape, and even his at a combine. I think he only ran like a 4.540, so he's not, he doesn't have that blazing speed. And watching highlights of him, you'd see plays where he would make like amazing like cuts and breaks and reading the holes and stuff, and it'd be wide open, and he'd be wide open in the field, running with what you would think would be a sure touchdown, and then he'd get kind of caught from behind. So I think if anything, that's probably what hurt Devin Neal in this draft. All right, so now we have two more players here, just out of the seventh round here. We have so the first seventh round pick, number 248 from Philadelphia via Washington. You have Maliki Matavio, tight end from UCLA, and he's more of just like a like a run blocking tight end more than anything. But I think just similar to all these players, he's shown like durability and experience, from playing in college a lot. And I mean, you could look at his numbers; they like slowly improved over the 4 years at Oregon and then at UCLA the last 2 seasons. But he played 4 years at college, played in 50 games, so he shows that he's durable, not injury prone, has experience, has played a lot of ball. But he had his best year receiving wise in 2024. But he I think for definitely where he'll get most of his play in New Orleans in the 2025 season will probably be as a run blocker, because he's 6'6", 240. But he put up pretty decent numbers for a tight end in his 2024 season. He played in 11 games with 41 receptions, 506 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's like average of 46 yards a game. And so the 41 plays, 506 yards, 12.3 yards on average, and had 2 touchdowns. But he slowly improved over his 4 year career. He went from 75 to 134 to 283 to 506, top in the scale at 506 in his last year at UCLA. And then over his college career, we mentioned the 50 total games, but he had 74 receptions with 998 yards receiving, 13.5 yards of reception, 6 total touchdowns, 20 yards a game, one rushing attempt for 3 yards, but it was for a touchdown. So he's showing some versatility. And then 75 plays from scrimmage with 1,001 yards, 13.3, and 7 total touchdowns. So I think initially, I think he'll just be kind of a run blocking tight end, a big body that you can put at the end of the line and help with running the ball. But I think Kellen Moore will slowly find ways to fit him into the receiving game. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess, because these later round picks. Because how I'm saying these things about these later round picks, but for all we know, they may not even make the team once you get this deep into the draft. After the fourth round, it's kind of lottery tickets, and how the draft in general is kind of just a lottery ticket. It's like 50-50. If you can come out of a draft 50-50 on your picks, then you did pretty good. All right, now then on to the final pick of the draft. This was almost Mr. Irrelevant, I do believe, close to the last pick of the seventh round, number 254, which was a compensatory pick, one of the first compensatory picks the Saints have had in years, which was nice. That would be great if he turns out to be an amazing player. And this was another player I mentioned Quincy Riley and Devin Neal being kind of on those lists of best available, or on those big boards of like the best players left at their position. This was another one I kept seeing before I kind of before I kind of tuned out on the draft, getting so deep into it. It's Fidel Diggs. Fidel Diggs. Uh, Fidel Diggs, edge. So pass rusher from Syracuse. So I was seeing that name quite a bit. And there's another player that's just played in a good amount of games, but he's been a little bit more beat up than all of them besides Tyler Shuck. Like he still played 5 seasons in college. I think in 2020 he only played in one game. That could have been due to the COVID, and then in 2022 he only played in 8 games, which I imagine that was due to some injury. But all the other 3 seasons, 2021 and 2023 through 24, he played in 12 games. So showing that he's durable, and he's played quite a bit in college in his 2024 season, and kind of similar to Malik Matavio. He kind of just slowly improved as his career went along in college, and he's a big have him listed as an edge. Like that makes me think like he's a stand-up outside linebacker, like pass rusher in a 3-4. But I mean, heck, this is why I'm a little surprised he didn't go sooner than this, being 6'5" and 260 pounds and being relatively productive in college. His last year at Syracuse, where he played 12 games, had 25 tackles with 20 assists and 45 combined, with 14 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, one pass deflection, fumble recovery, and a forced fumble. So he shows some pass rush potential, that's for sure. But like I said, he slowly improved over his college career. So if he can come in and put up anything similar to that, it'd be great. The Saints are just kind of lacking in pass rushers. That's pretty much all they got at the moment for players that I think will probably stand up edge rushers. You got Carl Granderson and Chase Young. After that, that's pretty much it. And I guess Isaiah Foskey, hopefully he can get on track. They can get him going, seeing how he was like a second round pick a couple of years ago. So just going over his career numbers, Fidel Diggs, he had 45 total games, 65 solo, 55 assists, 120 combined, 33 tackles for loss. So it wasn't just last year where he was getting some tackles for loss and tackles in the backfield. 15 and a half total sacks, 3 pass deflections, fumble recovery, and 4 forced fumbles. So he has, it shows that little sometimes when getting to the quarterback or making some big hits on some running backs, he's able to get the ball out. Saints just can't down any of these picks just because the Saints needed help at every position, and I like these picks on defense, and I like that they added another running back. They needed more depth at running back. So I like these picks on defense. I think if nothing else, the Saints defense has gotten better after this draft. Like I would be surprised if they're as bad as they were last year. It'd be hard to be worse than they were last year. You just have to be 32 of 32 to just be the worse than they were last year. The only thing I can think of coming out of this draft that they didn't come out of with that, which would have been nice, and it was just one pick away from picking a player and a position they really needed, which they just ended up not filling at all in this draft. Was wide receiver. They didn't get a wide receiver, and they were just one pick away. I wonder where Tate McMillan was where it was on their draft board before he got picked at number 8, right before the Saints had to probably go to their next BPA at Kelvin Banks Jr., who I think will end up being an integral part. He'll probably end up being a starter at left guard or one of the tackle spots anyway. So you got drafted a starter there. So the only thing coming away from this draft that I'm not a huge fan of is that they didn't get my guy T Mac Tate McMillan, or just a wide receiver at all. And then I don't like uh, I don't like old players or old uh, injury prone quarterbacks that numbers aren't overly impressive. Just the production isn't there. The injury history isn't good. The age, the side of age, he's getting closer to being on the side of 30 than he is 21. So this is just a combination of things that I don't really like for Tyler Shuck, but he's an enduring player. I think he's definitely you can like him a lot more. It seems like he's easier to like. Maybe it's just because he's a rookie and he hasn't given us any plays or any bad statements to hate him for. But because Carr is such an easy easy target and easy person and player just to hate. So just any quarterback that's not Derek Carr pretty much just gets a pass by New Saints fans and Hoodats, at least right now. But anyways, that's the Saints 2025 draft. Like I said, I like it on defense, and then you just kind of have to see what Tyler Shuck does. And I mean, Kelvin Banks Jr. is probably a starter, and I could definitely see Devin Neal in the rotation in that backfield. So I'm a fan. I'm can't hate on this draft too much. People like to give out like draft ratings and stuff before the players have even played a down or even played in preseason. But I think I'd definitely give this. I'd give this draft like at least a B so far, but I think it has potential to be even better than that. But so that's the draft of the Saints' actual picks. Let's get into now the undrafted free agents, which it seems like the Saints didn't seem to like go to quite as crazy as they usually do, or spend as much money on undrafted free agents as they usually do. Maybe that's because they had more than like 4 or 5 picks in this draft for the first time, to where like their 6th through 7th round picks would have possibly potentially been players that they'd have been trying to pick up as undrafted free agents. So they just didn't feel the need to spend quite as much as they have in the past. But they added 11 undrafted free agent rookies. But unlike last year, where they spent 160,000 on wide receiver Jermaine Jackson, who didn't even make the team, and then 250,000 on tight end Dylan Holker, who did make the team, who did make the roster, and who potentially could be seeing more playing time coming up, depending on what Foster Monroe does, or injury, how that plays out, or what their new tight end that they drafted in the later rounds might do. But we'll just go through these. Don't know too much about any of. Yeah, so let's get into the number of players that we got here. We have 11 that we were talking about here. We have Dallas Beecham, cornerback from South Dakota. James Burnip, punter from Alabama. Jasheen Davis, outside linebacker from Wake Forest. Elliot Davison, safety from UTSA. Moochie Dixon, wide receiver from SMU. Easton Kilty, tackle from Kansas State. Tareem Powell, linebacker, Rutgers. Omar Thomas, defensive end, Tennessee. Torricelli, Torricelli, Simpkins, the third guard, South Carolina. Chris Tyree, wide receiver, Virginia. And Marcus Yarns, running back, Delaware. So the first thing, just going off of these undrafted free agent rookies, for players that may actually make this team, I could see battling in camp would be James Burnip, the punter from Alabama, who I do believe they gave him a decent little amount of money. Yeah, out of out of the four undrafted free agents, rookies that they gave money to, James Burnip was given the most money, and not even close to what Jeremiah Jackson and tight end Ellen Holker got. He got 35K, 35,000, and then Jasheem Davis got 30K. Linebacker Tareem Powell got 30K, and then Dallas Beenum, cornerback, got 25K. So that's like nothing to what they spent on undrafted free agents last year. So James Burnham, their highest paid undrafted free agent. I definitely would like to see him compete, and hopefully just with a stronger leg, if nothing else, could beat out Matthew Hayball. Just these undrafted free agent, no name punters that they've had the past couple years that are just mid as mid can be. I've had about enough of that with what Blake Gilligan and Matthew Hayball last year, where these guys are just barely averaging like 40 yards a punt. It'd be real nice if James Burnett can come in and beat him out and just have some leg to your punter position. I want to hear some boom when I hear some punts, and see some punts that get down inside the 10 consistently, and have some 50 plus yard punts every now and then would be nice. So that's the main highlight of the biggest player, the most notable player. One, because he's from Alabama. Also, he's a punter, a position possibly of need, and then he's the one that they paid the most. And then we talked about how the Saints didn't take a wide receiver in this draft. They added two in undrafted free agents with Moochie Dixon, wide receiver SMU, and Chris Tyree, wide receiver Virginia. But the thing is, they're not big body receivers. They're not jump ball in catch in traffic type of receivers. You know, they're the same. They're the same as Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, Cooks. Yeah, Brandon Cooks. Like they're just short little 5'11" or shorter, like not even like 200-pound receivers. Like I say, they're just like them. They're not as good. We'll have to wait and see, but I doubt they're as good as Rashid and Cooks and Olave. But so but they still add some. They add some depth, some camp bodies at wide receiver. But I really wish they would add like an actual body, a big body, would be nice. Be interesting to follow what they do in free agency if they try to add a receiver in free agency. I'm still on that bandwagon. I'd love it if they sign uh, sign Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen. I'd be all for that. I think they just need that, and it would help to have two veteran receivers in the locker room, and Brandon Cooks and Keenan Allen, or Amari Cooper, or either one. So that's some of the undrafted free agents, and I'll just make fun of a dude's name here because this is so fitting with the current culture and times that we live in. The last name, Simpkins. Simpkins. My real question is, how does he act around attractive women? Does he turn into a simp? I'd like to know that about Torricelli Simpkins, the third guard, South Carolina. So that's just not the best last name out of this group of undrafted free agent rookies, Simpkins. I just feel as if he may be a simp about around these women. Maybe does too much with nothing in return. All right, so that's enough of that for the draft and then the undrafted free agents. I just want to just state my piece, I guess, about a little bit more of an update about Derek Carr. Is just, though we hadn't heard about Derek Carr for a little while, we've seen his podcasts of him showing off $100 million cars and things like that, or maybe not $100 million car, but $1 million cars, stuff we can never afford in these beautiful places out in Las Vegas or Fresno, wherever he's from. And that's where he likes to stay. He doesn't even like to stay in New Orleans. So that's one reason why people don't like him. But I guess he was uh, in Nevada, Las Vegas, a church that he attends in Las Vegas, and out of all places for him to bring up his injury and his status with the Saints, he starts talking about like, oh yeah, I am injured. It's a real injury, and then he kind of trails off from diving too deep into anything about the injury. He just dives in too deep about how bad social media is and how it made like him look bad before he could even even make a stand for himself in the Who Dat Nation and as the Saints starting quarterback, and just how he gets all the bad comments and how they don't about people on social media and stuff just don't know his situation, and even brings up to like one of the reasons I guess he wasn't in New Orleans was I guess uh, I guess he's saying like his wife didn't know that she was pregnant or something, but she had a miscarriage. Like, man, I know that's terrible, but kind of miss me with that. Like that has really like nothing to do with the football and the fact that you're getting paid $150 million and you got a $40 million signing bonus. Like that's completely irrelevant. Like, yeah, that sucks, but you're getting paid too so much that you could probably just move on from that. That doesn't mean you don't have to be a better person and more endearing to Saints fans, which I don't think is ever going to happen. He just whenever Derek Carr says anything, he makes himself look bad, and when he doesn't say anything or isn't around, he makes himself look bad. Like he just with Derek Carr, I just don't think he can win right now. But just showing you like that he's in. He originally started his career in like Oakland and was from Fresno, so California is where he's mostly based. But then he plays what like his last 2 3 seasons in Las Vegas for the Raiders. But then he's in the off season, while the Saints are having uh, off season training. He's just not around. He's in Las Vegas where his uh, former team currently plays. Like he can't even be around or in attendance. I guess that was because his wife's supposed miscarriage. But I, I'm just not buying it, and I'm just, as you can tell, I'm not overly sympathetic. And like I said, Derek Carr cannot say anything and make himself look better, and Derek Carr can say something and make himself look bad. Like he needs his own personal speaker. He needs a Paul Heyman. He needs to be a Paul Heyman guy, someone that has good mic skills to talk for him to maybe get him out of this. Uh, and just the way Mickey Loomis talks about anytime bringing Derek Carr up, he's just like if he's healthy, he's our starter. But I still want to see more information about like why he's injured, how he's injured, what the injury is. But it just seems like Derek Carr at the moment's just crying about how he's getting bullied and how he's not being accepted as a Saints fan on the internet. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. We've talked about the draft, and that next thing is to see like what the rookies OTAs and stuff, what those players look like in OTAs, and before we know it, we'll be having preseason games, and hopefully all these rookies and even the undrafted rookie free agent and then talking about Tyler Shuck, hopefully they can all stay healthy, and at least hopefully, if nothing else, they can be backups and add depth, and hopefully, just 3 or 4 of them maybe being starters, and the one that you probably want to be the best would probably be Tyler Shuck. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. Don't have too much on the draft or any of the undrafted free agent rookies yet. Hopefully, we'll get some more news about the Saints needing and having and wanting to sign a bigger body wide receiver would be nice. But then just waiting for this saga to Derek Carr saga to come to a head and conclusion would be nice. To whether he's going to be around on this team or it's just like he's just not here for 2025 and he's just not a Saint anymore. But anyways, I think that's all I have for you. So who dat? And can I get a check, please?